Good evening. Happy August, week before school starts, exciting. We'll go ahead and run through the attendance. Dr. Reese, present. McDonough, absent. Summers, absent. Whitney,
Here.
Atchison, here. Aldred, absent. Schultz.
Here.
Great. All right. For this meeting? No, I'm fine, I can do it. I'll be all right. I'll double serve today. All right, changes to the board agenda. I do have one. I need to make a motion to add a human resources personnel issue to the agenda. All those in favor? Oh, Mike,
Oh,
support.
I'll support.
And then all those in favor?
Doesn't need a roll call over?
No, not for
Okay,
this part.
okay.
All right, motion carries. We'll add it to, just so everyone can keep up with it, we'll go ahead and add it to number 5 before your report, or after the superintendent's report, so number 6, actually. Okay. All right. Kelly, did you receive any scheduled public comment? I did not either. All right, under consent agenda, I'll take a motion. We have the minutes for July 8th, July 23rd, and human resources updates. Go ahead, Ann.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have support? Colleen?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Number 5, superintendent's report. Dr. Milligan.
All right, good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome our ad team here tonight. Thank you for coming. It's good to see your smiling faces. At least you're faking it till you make it. I appreciate that. All right, Erin, actually, if you could pull up the other one with the pictures, I would yeah, that one. Thank you. Appreciate that. So as I've been doing for the past couple of months, I've been highlighting the events of the district since the previous board meeting. We have had a lot of really exciting things going on. So this particular event was the Oxford Family Movie Night. Many of you were able to attend that evening. So it was at the Oxford High School, and it started in the cafeteria with meals provided by local restaurants, which we appreciate tremendously. And they were delicious, and whew, what a great crowd. We probably had over 300 people there. It was fantastic. And as you can see, we had games, kids were playing, they were running around. And we saw Mr. Treasurer's new baby, which was adorable. So it was really a fun evening, and then everyone got to go into the theater and watch the movie If. So it's just a great evening for families, and I appreciate and thank all of the staff. We had a tremendous number of staff members who were responsible for putting this on, and they've done events throughout the whole summer and have done a fabulous job. So great appreciation for this opportunity. We also, this is pretty exciting, so we've had a team of people working all summer to get OEIC up and running, and it has taken a tremendous amount of effort on many people's part, but we did finally get occupancy, and we were able to start moving furniture, and this was our staff's first visit to OEIC, which stands for Oxford Education and Innovation Campus. It's going to house our Bridges program, OVA, as well as LOFT. And one of the things I want to make sure I emphasize or re-emphasize, because I've said it before, this is such a wonderful opportunity for our students who have been placed and educated in spaces that were kind of out of the public eye. You know, Bridges was in the top of the middle school, and if you think from a high schooler standpoint, coming to a middle school to be educated can be problematic just from their identity standpoint. And so all programs were kind of like, we had OVA in a strip mall, costing us a fortune every month to pay for rent. And so bringing everybody into the fold, making sure we're inclusive, making sure students know we value them regardless of the pathway that they are taking to get their high school diploma, right? Very important that students know that and that we emphasize that. So I appreciate the board support. I appreciate the community support to make this happen. I know on the first day when students come in, Janet has assured me she's going to be taking lots of pictures, the joy that we will see on students' faces. And that's why we do what we do, right? So I appreciate everyone who's in the audience. There's so many people who helped to get this space open. So I want to say thank you to all of those individuals for all of your effort. But they're pretty happy too. The staff is just as happy. Band camp in Otisville went up there last week. Jim Gibbons is the band director. It was a gorgeous day. He talked about appreciating so many of the volunteers who came and stayed in the cabins. Like they would work during the day, drive up to Otisville, stay in the cabins with, I believe there were 11 teenagers in each cabin. So that's true dedication. And they practiced their routines. They were just so happy and running around. They had flowers around their neck. They were eating pizza. They were just having a wonderful time. And then they performed for their families at 5 o'clock. And so I was able to make it there for the performance. And Jim had shared with me that this is over a 35-year tradition that they go to this camp every single year, which is really excellent for our students to have that consistency and to look back and say, hey, I did something that they're doing now, and they're going to continue to do. So it was a great event to attend, and I appreciate the invitation. We welcome our administrative assistants back. We had a breakfast for them last Friday, and I shared with them how significant their roles are to the success of a school system, right? Specifically, I spoke to my experiences with my administrative assistants since I became an administrator. And it's huge, right? They're your right and your left-hand person. And so we were so happy to see them, and they were really happy for the food, which we all were, right? Again, the theme continues. Tony DeMar, I appreciate him sending these pictures on Monday, which was, golly, just yesterday. We welcomed over 600 students back to the high school for extracurricular activities, right? And, you know, I had a meeting up there early in the morning, and they were just everywhere. It was a little bit warm in the morning, and I believe it was cross country that I saw running up that hill. So they were just really hot, really tired, but go team. They did a great job. So it's just really excellent that our students have so many options and so many take advantage of those options. It was beautiful to see all the students back participating in activities that they love. Finally, and hopefully the board will support me in this endeavor because I aim to win this scavenger hunt. There currently is a staff scavenger hunt that just went out, I think last week. Thank you to Pam Beal for putting it together. So essentially, there are specific tasks that you have to go to and take pictures. And so I needed to take a picture of me with office staff, me in front of a downtown mural, and of course, one of the facility dogs, that's Oscar at the middle school. And so just as I go about my day, I'm like, ooh, I can get those points, and ooh, I can get these points. My next task is to get my picture taken with my boss wearing a wig. So these are my bosses, and I brought a wig, so hopefully I'm going to score points on that one. So if you haven't started, staff, to doing the scavenger hunt, it's really awesome. Again, it's another way that I can get to know the area and just have a really good time. So it's been pretty fun. I'm going to win. I am definitely going to win. All right, and I think, is that the last one? That is the last one. Okay, and I am actually going, I know it's a little unorthodox, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm actually, Aaron, if you don't mind putting the second one up, I'm actually going to present over there. I know, weird, right?
I don't know who's wearing the wig, but.
Mike.
She's wearing the wig.
Okay, so the presentation that I'm about to do is takeaways and themes from the 30-day plan. So I arrived in Oxford on June 10th and hit the ground running. And as promised, I have met with a lot of people. I have had a chance to talk with many community members, family members, staff, all sorts of people. And my goal today was to synthesize, bring that to bear on this conversation. So I am sharing with you what people have shared with me from a thematic standpoint. So in full transparency, I have done hundreds of presentations. I have done presentations with large groups, small groups, diverse, you name it, different levels. This is the first presentation I have an extreme level of anxiety, right? I probably changed this presentation 10, 15 times. The version you have in board docs probably looks totally different than what is up here, but I feel very responsible for what the gifts that people have given me. They have been fully transparent. They have shared their experiences. They have shared, in some cases, their trauma with me, and I value that so much. And so as I was putting this together, I kept thinking, well, if I do it this way, you know, somebody might be activated, so maybe I should do it that way, or what about this picture? And I really want to honor, we had a vision board, our administrators did vision boarding, and I want to honor their thoughts and there was just so many pieces and parts. So I start this presentation, I know this is a little strange, but I start this with an apology, honestly, because my heart was in this. It was really hard to do, just knowing how sensitive it is that I'm an outsider coming in. I haven't been in the community. I haven't been through what the community has been through. So I apologize if I put anything up there that activates anyone, but I felt honor bound to share what people shared with me, right? It was important to them, for me to know, and I felt it's important for everybody to know, okay? So bear with me. So just as a review, here were the pieces that I committed to doing during the 30 days. It was the community engagement, lots of community engagement, lots of food, which I loved, best food ever. Stakeholder meetings, assessment of resources, reviewing emergency protocols, and looking at our communication plan. So lots of listening, actively listening, lots of people meeting with me. So the first thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you to everybody. There are people in this room sitting here that shared their experiences with me that resonated so deeply, and it was not easy for them to share that. So I truly am honored that people would share that with me. Thank you to all of the community members. Some of them came to my office. I would have been more than happy to go to their office. Chief Majestic came down from the fire department. I had the chief of police. I had the Oxford Township president. I had like all these people met with me. They carved out time to meet with me because they wanted to share their thoughts on how we could move forward together. So when you see what I present, it's because people carved out time. Parents carved out time to talk with me and share their hopes and aspirations. So again, thank you. And I also owe the Board of Education a huge thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve the Oxford community. It's truly been an honor to be here, so thank you. All right, here are some general takeaways. These are comments, these are things that people have shared on surveys, things that people have shared just one-on-one, and I've categorized them in 3 groups, which are staff, parents, and community, all right? And so starting with staff, here are some things that staff members have said or shared in a variety of ways. Some of that was through vision boarding, and essentially what a vision board is, for those of you who've never done a vision board, that's really fun to do at New Year's Eve, right? Thinking about what your year you want it to look like, and you essentially take pictures, you know, whether it's through a magazine. We did it electronically, and so they pulled clip art, and essentially the question was, what does moving forward as one look like for you? And they took pictures, right, and put it in a presentation. And I learned so much about what their hopes and dreams were for the future. So you'll see some of that coming up. Many of them talked about unity, coming together, that we're better together than individuals. Encouraged to embrace the challenges ahead, becoming stronger together. There was a very solid theme, together, unity. Everyone's in a different place, right? And it changes. Just because you're in one place at one point in time doesn't mean tomorrow you're going to be in that same place. It changes, but it was really important to everyone that we don't leave anyone behind. How do we figure out to wrap our arms around everyone and move forward as one? We don't want to leave anyone behind. Advocates and love for so many times. I met with so many staff members, and they would just talk about, they're so excited about the school year. They're so excited to do their work with and for students. Just the love they have for students in general is palpable. It was just beautiful to see, to hear, to read. Many staff members talked about, we want to find a path to rigorous educational goals, right? We want to honor where people are at in their journey, and we also know that the business of our business is academics, and this moment in time is students' opportunity to get their academics, get their education. They don't get a K-12 education again. This is it. So how can we figure out how to find a path that works for everyone, that we're being supportive, and have rigorous educational goals so they have lots of options for the future? All right, parents, talking with parents, meeting with parents. They were wonderfully transparent, shared lots of great information, and I appreciate that. I always appreciate advocacy. And so some things that they did not hesitate to share, we need better communication. We need better communication. We need to know what's going on, when it's happening. So we are definitely working through some of those kinks. We just found a little kink today that we're trying to overcome right now. Apparently when in Power School, when we interfaced it in the spring with our student messenger, our family messenger, anyone who was newly enrolled was not populated in that. So we are going to resend out our messaging because we missed those families. So those are the things we have to pick up on. When we have glitches, number one, we need to be transparent. Like, there was an error, you know, nobody intentionally left families out, but we need to rectify it and we need to communicate about it. So that was very, very important. Responsive to students' needs and situations, right? Students are in very different places and they have very different needs. So how do we make sure we can be responsive? What support systems do we have in place? What resources do we have in place? I've been very impressed. We've met with the vast majority of our building principals, And I've been very impressed with their PBIS, with their MTSS. These are systems and structures used to support students no matter where they're at, right? No, academically, if they're struggling academically, if they're struggling social-emotionally, if they need mental health support. We have a very robust system, and so it was important for parents to make sure that we are being responsive. Whatever the students are coming with, we are figuring out how to respond to those needs in those situations. They really appreciated schools of choice. We do have some families who opt to come to Oxford, and so they talked about appreciating that opportunity. They want to make sure we are consistent in our messaging and in our support, and keeping our communication trauma-informed. And one of the things that a parent shared with me, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Consistency, so if I'm coming to school and I'm used to seeing a staff member when I come to school, and I come to school and that staff member's not there, that is an activating situation for me. I don't know why the staff member, what's wrong? Like there's something wrong. So just being transparent, hey, Mr. Smith isn't here, here is what's happening, everything's okay, right? That was very important to parents, that we communicate when there's any type of change, just letting kids know, right? That's a trauma-informed practice, the consistency. Acknowledging student anxiety and fear and making sure we're listening to student voice, right? And you know, my daughter was challenged by anxiety, and I'll be honest, I don't think I understood it as well as I need to. And she used to get super frustrated with me because she's like, you don't hear me, Mom. I don't think you know that my anxiety is real. And she was probably right? So understanding that when kids are voicing their fear, they are voicing their anxiety, it is extremely real for them, and taking that seriously, that was very important. And then rebuilding trust, right? In order to be trustworthy, we have to behave in trustworthy ways. So finding ways that we can be fully transparent, we can have open communication, and make sure that it's a two-way dialogue. It's not us after a fact being, ta-da, surprise, here's a situation. Like making sure we have that ongoing dialogue, and we're gonna work towards that. And finally, many people brought this up, snow days. They're very important. We want you to think about snow days, both ways, to have them, to not have them. And I said, duly noted. All right, so parents, community, and again, I met with a lot of Oxford community leaders. They graciously carved out time to meet with me and share their thoughts. And here are some things that they shared. This is an actual statement. Oxford is a mecca for students. I was like, a mecca? I haven't heard that word in a while. That was pretty cool. You know, both academics and extracurricular. This is a question, so many people said this to me. Do you know how incredible your staff is? I know, right? Because I've had a chance to meet them. But they were asking me, do you know? Yeah. I think I said that when we were in the interview. Dr. Reese asked me, like, what's the number one thing, the number one resource in Oxford? I said, your people. Your people are phenomenal. And it really is an honor to work with them. People want to come to Oxford for the schools and the community. I can speak. It's very hard to find a house in Oxford. I have found a house in Oxford, so yay! I'll be living in Leonard, so that's pretty exciting. Robust history. There were so many people that shared the long history of the community and school connections and support. You know, the interactions, Chief Majestic talked about the EMT program. Like, he just gushed about it, loved it. And then I actually had a chance to talk to the teacher of that program at another event. She gushed about it and talked about the advantage it provides for our students, right? And so, huge history of that partnership. And they're looking for more. They're looking for more ways that we can connect the community to our schools. So we'll definitely be looking for that. Lots of pride in our schools that they shared, right? Students, they're just awesome. Our students are just awesome. They want to feel safe. They want to come to school and they want to know that they can get an education and they don't have to use part of their brain to worry about, am I safe? That was a big deal. Lots of joy. They have a lot of joy of learning. Lots of the activities that you see here at the elementary school, that was at OES, they did a Lego camp. And oh my gosh, were the kids having the best time, right? So providing an opportunity for students to engage in programs and work with teachers that just bring them joy. That's Katie in the podcast. She did a podcast with me, and she was just the funnest ever. Also asked a lot of interesting questions, and she was very savvy, so that was fun. And the cheerleading group down at the bottom, they were doing, I think I've shared that picture at a previous board meeting. That was a team challenge. They had to work together to build a structure out of just random materials and how high they could get it. And another group watched them do the building and gave them feedback. This is what you could do differently. This is what you could do better as far as communication in the group. I liked it so much, I actually used it at the admin academy. So that worked out really great. They appreciated the support. They want to make sure the support is still there. They value it from teachers and specialists. That's really important to them. And hope. There's a lot of hope. Hope for a bright future. Hope for continued opportunities for them, both academically and extracurricularly. So they are a joy. They are why we do what we do. All right, here are some themes. So essentially, I took all of this information, and it was a lot. It's been swimming around in my head for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was very challenging just to make sure I was honoring the dialogue, right? That I wasn't inserting myself and my needs and my thoughts. I really wanted to lift what people shared with me and honor that. So again, I apologize if I didn't quite nail it or if I put something up here that is activating, but I felt it was really important. People shared this with me. I felt a responsibility to share it with the community, all right? So the first theme is resilience. It was, above all else, people really working hard to figure out what moving forward looked like for them. They really wanted to do the work. And I don't know if you've ever done grief work. It is extremely difficult. And they talked about some chose to do that work and some were not ready to do that work. So wherever people were, they were honoring that, but they knew the importance of grit and really digging in and figuring out what that looks like for each one. So this is almost every single group that I talked with, talked about continuing to work through the overwhelming grief of losing Hannah, Tate, Justin, Madison, and the trauma of November 30th. And I know that's hard to hear, but I think it's really important to hear that that's where people are. But I also want to say they're working through the grief, and it's not easy. So thank you to all the community members, parents, students that felt comfortable to share that with me. I so appreciate that, and I value that. They felt that the tragedy forever changed the community. However, they want to be known for many great things in Oxford, including the schools, and multiple people indicated they didn't want that particular day to define the community, to define Oxford, right? And what does that look like? How do we reestablish the narrative for who we are and what we represent as a community? And they emphasize we're better together, and together we are stronger. So, how do we do that? What does that look like? And this is a banner that's on the high school tennis courts that just struck me so deeply when I saw it. The love will overpower the hate forever, and Oxford just goes to prove that. That's from Kylie Osage, and that was a banner at the high school. So that speaks, I think, very poignantly to the concept. Like, we're going to do this together, whatever it looks like. So again, I know that's hard, I know that's difficult to hear, but I so value that people shared that, because it's important to say that out loud. Reconstruction. So what does reconstruction look like? And I love these visuals. So they're mosaics, and for those of you who do mosaic work, it's really cool because you have all these broken pieces and parts, and you bring them together and you put them together and you make something of beauty, right? So the vase on the left was shared on a vision board, someone's vision board, and then on the right, that's a mosaic at Leonard Elementary School, and it's just stunning. And it's just all these variety of pieces and parts put together to make that image, right? So something very challenging, very difficult can turn into something very beautiful. So again, continuing to work through the grief, sustain strategies to manage the trauma, that's a big one, and some of those strategies include regaining hope for the future, maintain a support system, find meaning and purpose in life, set goals, and know that experiencing setbacks is a part of the process. There are days that people shared for whatever reason, they were going to the grocery store, they were waking up in the morning, regular things, and all of a sudden they have this overwhelming anger, this overwhelming fear. It's a part of the process, right? It's a part of the reconstruction process. You will absolutely have setbacks. And so, they shared, trying to understand that for themselves and what that means for their moving forward. And again, shared experiences help us connect, trying to better understand that we're in this together. I'm experiencing it, you're experiencing it, and we may do it differently, but we're all going through the process of what that looks like. The third theme, people talked about the amazing resources in Oxford. Through the trauma, still being able to provide a quality education, teachers doing the best they can, trying to be 100% every day. They know that students need them 100%, and they had to figure out how to dig deep within themselves, even on the hardest of days, right? A variety of programming needs to meet students' needs, including CTE, OVA, early college, Bridges, IB, AP. I could go on and on and on and on. Very appreciative. People were very appreciative of the selection. The leadership profile talked about that. How many people appreciated the options that kids had in school. And families still choosing Oxford to educate their children. That was a big one. Like, we choose Oxford. People have options. People can opt to go to different schools outside of Oxford. And some do, right? I have signed off on some who, for a variety of reasons, chose to go to a different school district. However, the vast majority choose to stay here in Oxford. And the variety of options, right? So if in-person is not working, some people talked about the trauma and anxiety that students felt going physically to school, and they opted for OVA. What a great option, right? And it was working for them. So again, looking at multiple pathways for students to help them be successful. Summer programming, I met with one parent, and she was over the moon for our summer programming. She's like, I didn't even have to pay for it. That's amazing. Do you have any she was talking to friends who had kids in other school districts, and she's like, first of all, it's hard to even get in, and second of all, you have to pay for it. It's expensive. And here in Oxford, we provide that as a service to our families and their students. We offer all MHSAA sports at no cost to students. So where Mr. Fitzgerald comes from, Lake Orion, they have pay to play. We are committed to making sure that we do not go that route. And how do we figure that out? It is a wonderful opportunity for kids to be a part of extracurricular activity, not just for their health, their mental health, but also socially, that developing social skills, things that we want them to have. Some people refer to them as soft skills, so that when they do go, whichever career path they take, it's not just about the academics. It's in addition, we want to make sure they can work collaboratively with their coworkers. And schools are a point of pride for the community. People seek to live here for the schools, right? Tremendous mental health supports and resources. And the state has cut back on those resources, so we are actively looking on how to fund and continue those resources because we value them, right? We value them for all of our students, for all of our staff, and how do we make sure we maintain that? That's become an expectation, that's what we do. So we need to figure that out. We have a reputation for excellence. People talked about this all the time. As I mentioned earlier, it's a mecca for students, known for educational excellence. Families move in for the schools. They're a point of pride. It's a resident district, which means that people move here to work here and send their students to school here. And that's what struck me as most interesting in my day in the district, how many teachers and administrators I met who talked about how they work here and they send their children here. And then at the high school, I would meet the children, and they're like, yeah, my dad's the elementary principal. I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be good. Give me the deets, right? And so it's really, I was like, wow, that's amazing. And they had so much pride, and they've raised their children. I can't tell you how many people, Jack Curtis, who is the village, yes, exactly, township supervisor. He talked about not only his kids, and they're in their 30s right now, but going through Oxford, graduating at Oxford, and what a successful trajectory that put them on. He was so proud about all the things that they were doing now, and he credited Oxford schools for that. And that's just one of many examples of how people value sending their students to Oxford. And again, I mentioned schools of choice. And then finally, revitalizing. What were some things that came up? And specifically, the pictures you're going to see are from the vision boards. So what people shared on their vision boards that were really important to them for us to revitalize during the strategic planning. And so, fun. How do we ensure that we maintain? Obviously, safety is so important. We want to make sure we find a balance, right? How do we balance safety without taking away the joy and fun at school? So we're currently going to have to figure that one out, right? The portrait of a graduate. We went through that in my previous district. That is a long process to go through the portrait of a graduate, and it is a thing of beauty. Like the manual, the handout that's for is beautiful. And so people talked about how do we revitalize that? It was something that we as a community valued and wanted to make sure that we put it out there, that this is what we see, the graduate of Oxford, of K-12, pre-K-12 Oxford, these are the characteristics we want to make sure they have. And so what does that look like? Teaching and learning. Like, how do we refocus on rigorous teaching and learning that is supportive of students, continues to have those wraparound services, and keeps them going towards academic goals so that they have bright options for their future. And then I really like this because it was a path towards a goal, like really involving staff and students going forward, right? The little footmarks towards the goal and concepts that'll get us there. So thank you to all of you who shared your thoughts on the vision board. I thought it was really powerful and will definitely lend itself to some pretty solid strategic planning. Reconnecting through communication. We talked about a communication plan. And right now, what we're seeing, so if you look at the blue arrows, that's where we are right now, right? We have pretty much a one-way arrow of communication from Board of Education, executive leadership team, principals and directors, faculty and staff, parents, students, community. What we're working on in our plan is a trauma-informed practice of two-way communication, ongoing two-way communication. So where you see the yellow lines, that's where we're trying to figure out strategically how do we ensure we have that two-way communication, as well as the green lines that typical pathways have not followed. So how do we make sure we are communicating effectively across groups, both ways, two-way communication? We've talked about a variety of ways to do that through social media, district website. We have s'mores, which I know our students aren't super happy with, but Kurt, I'll tell you, I love the one you sent out for seniors. I thought that was excellent, right? It just, before seniors even get to school, they're gonna see everything they need to know. And from a trauma-informed standpoint, that's excellent. They can predict their senior year and see the important events they can plan. That's so important. And so we're looking at making sure that we have a robust plan. And I know we're gonna be working on our website. Right now, I'm using the word nested. Some other people may use different words, but right now it's just so nested, it's hard to find information readily. And so we're gonna be working on that as well. So to end the presentation, I have a couple of visuals to end the presentation, and one I'm particularly excited about. The first one, I essentially took words that people shared. We did a staff survey on what they wanted the theme to be this year, as well as various words that came up a lot during conversation. You can see, some of the words that hope was a big one, connected, together, bright, trust, thriving, team. So all of that really spoke to the hope for a bright future, which leads us to, I wish I had a drum roll machine. I could drum roll, anybody? No? Okay. Thank you. Okay. This is our theme for the year. Oxford Schools looking forward to a bright future. One team, one dream, one Oxford. This was staff generated, right? Many people saw this as a possible theme, but then others spoke to it, the together, the hope. And Christy did a great job. You'll see that our Wildcat has sunglasses on because he's looking towards a bright future. So that's pretty fun. So we'll have t-shirts for our staff with that on it, as well as our board members, of course. All right. We also kind of revamped this moving forward as one. The leadership team felt that the Oxford O would be better. I had like the sequential O's, and they felt that that would be better, so I appreciate that feedback. And then finally, the next steps. Okay, here's where the heavy lifting. We take all of this information and all of these concepts and themes, and we start messing with it. We roll up our sleeves, and what does this look like? So working with district leadership to strategically plan using the findings and the data. What is it telling us? What is it, how do we shape this? Because ultimately we want to get to January and be prepared to have a platform for strategic planning where community members can come and we can say, okay, this is what we know at this point in time. This is what we've synthesized. How does that resonate with you? What are your thoughts? How can we use this to galvanize us forward in this strategic planning? But first, we got to muck about with it. So that's the first thing we have to do. And then we have to look at budgeting and resources. So how do we look at currently how we're allocating resources, and what in our community, how are they putting their priorities? What is most important? And how can we look at making sure that we allocate resources accordingly? And then we have to look at continuing or enhancing or initiating professional development along those lines, right? These are all things that go into moving forward. And we have to have kind of a vision as far as what people have told me, have told us on what makes sense for moving forward. Enhancing collaborative partnership for sustainability. That's working with community members, that's working across the district, and how we can sustain what we're doing right now. We've put a lot of enhancements in, whether it be safety, whether it be mental health, whether it be academic resources, and which is great. It just makes it kind of challenging to make sure we're able to keep it up, because all kids will deserve all of those resources. So how do we make sure we keep that up? And finally, establishing a continuous feedback loop to check for validity. So just because people shared it with me in the summer doesn't mean it's gonna hold true in January, or maybe the way that I filtered it and the team filtered it, maybe we missed the mark. So what does it look like? Let's make sure we have that continuous feedback loop. We put it out here. This is what we see, this is what we're thinking, what do you think? Give us some information, work with us, and that's going to be a huge part of the strategic planning process in January. We hope to start that process in January. So, I think that's it. All right. Questions? I know it was a lot.
It was a lot, and I want to thank you for being not only vulnerable tonight with everyone giving this presentation as you translated learning from individuals and understanding, some of the things. I appreciate it. I like the work that you put into it, and I appreciate you being vulnerable with everybody here tonight. I think it's an important trait of a great leader.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think it was fabulous. Okay, thank you. All right, Erin. And thank you, Erin.
All right. Yep, no problem. Mike is running to grab some water really quick, but we are going to go ahead, and the next agenda item was our added one, number 6, HR updates. We're inserting it ahead of time. So Ryan, if you would like, Mike's just right there. So.
Good evening. I am here tonight to bring forward a layoff. This is due to the closure of our Padilla co-located location that went with another district. They're no longer with Oxford Community Schools. So we had a part-time teacher that we will not have a position for based on her locality living out in the Howell area. She's not able to travel into Oxford for a part-time position here in the district. So we are looking for a motion for layoff.
Right. All right. Just so you guys understand, I'll go ahead and make the motion, support it, and then it's roll call vote whenever we need to do a layoff of any of the professional staff. So I will move to approve the layoff of Jennifer Fisher Ninen effective immediately. Do I have support? Mike?
Second.
And then roll call vote. Ann?
I agree, yes.
Okay. Colleen?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Aaron, yes. Motion carries. Thanks, Ryan. All right, moving on to the agenda. Now we have Board of Education matters. The first item on the agenda is the MASB 2024 delegates. This is for, you may have seen the email from MASB for the 2024 delegate assembly, where they review the resolution and bylaws. I was appointed to that committee last year at the state level and recommended several resolutions and to be changed to include threat assessment, Aaron's Law, gun safe storage, things that were missing from them. So I would like to be appointed so I can go and vote on this and make sure that that language is respected as it was added to the bylaws. So take a motion. Colleen?
Move to appoint Dr. Aaron Reese as Oxford Community Schools Board Delegate to the 2024 MASB Delegate Assembly.
Support.
Mike Whitney, support. Any discussion? All right. You're welcome. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, guys. I'll let you know in October how it all fared out. Board meeting calendar, we did have a request to move one of the October meeting, regular board meeting dates. It was currently scheduled for Tuesday, October 8th, which happens to fall during our fall break. And so we're looking to move the October 2024 regular board meeting to October 15th, 2024, 6:30 PM. It will remain here at Lakeville Elementary. So if I could get a motion for that. Go ahead, Ann.
I move to approve the changes in the October 2024 regular board meeting dates as presented.
Do I have support? Colleen? Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. Item C in the Board of Education matters is we received a FOIA appeal for FOIA fees on 2 different FOIA requests. I think we've had several of these over the last 6 months, I want to say, that we've talked about. So I don't know if someone wants to make a motion one way or the other to approve or deny the fee appeal. If you approve it, then we waive the fees. If you deny it, then we maintain the fees that we've put in place for FOIAs. Colleen?
Move to deny the FOIA fee appeal.
Do I have support?
I support that.
Ann? Any discussion? We did say after our last fee appeal that we would maintain fee structure surrounding all FOIAs. We receive a lot of FOIAs, and it does cost staff time and personnel time. The fees are not exorbitantly high. They're at like 1/8 of an hourly salary rate or something. Depends on the number of articles they pull. So, all right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item D, we had our a policy meeting, and only Ann is here from the policy committee today. But if someone, I can actually read the motion if you want, and then we'll have discussion on. I will take that one for you. All of them were in board book too, so if you didn't get a chance to read them, they are there if you want to pull them up while I'm reading them off. Move to approve the first reading of policies 3115, 3115A, 3115B, 3115C, 3115D, 3115E, 3115F, 3115G, 3115H, 3118, 3402, 4101, 4102, 4104, 4105, 4105A, 4105B, 4201, 4206, 4209, 4401, 4402, 4403, 4405, 4408, 4409, 4503, 4507, 4609, 5202, 5204, 5304, 5420, 5711, 5713, and 5715 as presented. Do I have support? Mike, thank you. Okay, so brief discussion on these. These were, and Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, since you sit on the, it was her first policy committee meeting. These were the remaining policies from our transition over to Troon that we had to approve either due to changes to the new academic year or in law. Am I correct in stating that? So this is the first reading. We will then have a second reading, so if there's any edits in the meantime, you need to shoot them off to the policy committee and have an email written to them about that. Any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and then we'll read the next ones at the next policy meeting, or the next regular board meeting. All right. Item number 7, curriculum and instruction, Anita Conja-Collins. The first one I think we've already talked about, the third grade social studies curriculum, correct?
Yes, and the last time I was here, one of the things that I promised we would do is approach the vendor of the resource we had previously adopted about a credit, and they did issue us a $7,700 credit, which OVA has already started to use because they also use that vendor. And an order they recently placed was, yeah, they already issued the credit, and I already said it's like pending board approval, but they were generous enough to issue the credit for us. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that before you actually voted on that.
Great. All right, can I get a motion for the third grade curriculum? Mike,
Move to approve the third grade social studies curriculum as presented.
do I have support? Colleen? Any discussion? Thank you for bringing that, Anita, back to us.
Thank
Yeah, and I
you.
wasn't here the last meeting, but I watched it, and I appreciated the, both the time that the staff put in, and their, kind of the time and effort that they put into it, and knowing that they were gonna end up coming back, with a little bit different plan, what that would look like all the way through. Like what that would look like on their plate, what that would look like coming to us, but they did their due diligence, and I appreciate that all the way through.
They did. Thank you for recognizing it. I know they're going to be very happy. And then my next step will be to reach out to ensure they get their support planning days with Oakland schools.
Great. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item B is course catalog.
Yes, so in your board packet, you had our tentative course catalog for the 24-25 school year. Very comprehensive, as you can see. I think it ended up at 265 pages. The course catalog update usually, when we bring it forth, is honestly a lot of making sure the dates are correct. They're reflective of our new board member names, our new administrators. And so it's usually just revamping and ensuring it's up to date in that sense. So 99% of the time, what you're actually approving is just those types of updates. We do have a deadline with our auditors that we found out about in late July, that we have to submit our course catalog to the county, which then is communicated to the state by August 28, I believe, which, to be transparent, I know not ideal. We'd like to bring things the first time, give a chance, and then seek approval, but we will be seeking approval tonight. However, in tentative in that course catalog are some OVA classes as well as some new special education classes. And so I'm going to attempt to share and put like my Pam Beal hat on, and she's watching, I'll say hi to her. Put my hat on and try to explain as eloquently as she would the really excellent work she's been doing with the high school team. And so if it's approved tonight, the special ed classes would be approved with it, and then I'll have OVA team present their classes. So as far as the special education classes additions go to the course catalog, you may remember that back in May, Pam came to the board and shared about the Student Success Program. They established a program, and I believe some of you may have visited the program when you were at the high school, to help bring students to school. We had students who were resistant to coming to school, whether it's anxiety, lack of engagement, and so coming up with a system to help provide a safe space for them to go and receive social emotional support, academic support. That classroom is actually quite inviting. It's so comfortable, you almost feel like you're at home. Maybe a little too comfortable for some. I think some of our high school friends might say. The challenge with that, however, is that our students were not earning the credits that they need towards graduation. And so what they have revamped is establishing a very similar course, but each hour would actually be a different subject. So it's a student success program, there's an ELA course, a math course, transitions planning course, and I took really good notes. The transitions planning course would be to help students make post-secondary plans, goal planning, EDP planning. And then the personal wellness course would be designed to help with skills like nutrition, exercise, mental health, SEL work. And so the other course that they want to add is the work-based learning and employment skills for students with an IEP. Currently, we have the opportunities for our general education students where if they're interested in accounting, they can go out to an accounting firm and earn hours and credit towards and experience towards that path for them. We don't have anything similar for special education students currently, so this would help create that opportunity for them. Participating in this course would allow them to learn essential job skills, filling out a job application, simple things like dress code at work, how do you interact at work, how do you keep up with your schedule, and it would allow them to get a job and also have our teachers communicate with their employer to help them find success and coach them with their class. So those are the special ed classes that we are hoping to add to the course catalog just to help our students with IEPs earn credit and find more success academically. What questions might you have that I hope I can be able to answer?
Remind me, so this is one, like, cohort of kids. These aren't kids that come and go in that classroom throughout the day. They come in and stay in that class.
It's about 12 to 17 kids that really this is tailored for. Maybe our most neediest, I would say. Mm-hmm.
And it's all grade levels from my understanding, right? It's
Yep.
just not ninth graders or 10th graders.
Right.
It's all 4 levels, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Mike and I visited that classroom when we were touring the high school. The teacher is excellent.
Yes.
So I'm glad they can get credit for the work that she's doing with them.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Ova. Come on up, friends.
So good evening. We're super excited tonight. I have to be honest, I was at the building today and we've been in boxes and tape and rugs and all the things, right? The physical spaces. So I thought, gotta go tonight and do this. We have so much to do. But it really centered us because it's refreshing and reviving to talk curriculum for the pathway to rigorous, academic work for our students. And so it was really nice last night to even revisit our documents because we've prepared them for a while. So I have a wonderful team here. They're gonna, Jordan's gonna be the wingman for Caitlin, but I have a wonderful team that's gonna present our secondary offerings. Our secondary offerings are Oxford design courses. Lots of hard work over the last couple years. Caitlin will explain it. She's got a team that she works with, and of course, Mr. Sandel is in the audience. Without him, with the ADA compliance, putting it online. So it's not just designing curriculum, but it's putting it online. It's a heavy lift. You have to be course designers. It's another step in designing curriculum. So she'll explain all of that and her team and all the hard work and the request we're asking tonight for our ELA and our world history. And then Dr. Dennis is going to present a couple elementary options that we feel like there's a gap, and he'll explain that a little bit more in the elementary world. Those courses are more we're buying content and we are putting it on our platform arranged how we want it. So we have some voice and choice in it, but we purchased some really quality things. So your packet is, I think, very robust with lots of documents.
Sure was.
So you can take it away.
Hi, good evening. I'm Caitlin Martin. I am the secondary instructional coach at OVA.
I'm Jordan Dennis. I'm the elementary assistant principal.
So we are seeking approval for 4 courses tonight, ELA 9, World History, STEM, and Spanish. And these will fill both OVA needs and shared time program needs. So I will talk about our high school offerings, ELA 9 and World History. About this time last year, I was here seeking approval for our ELA 12 Oxford Design courses. Those have gone live, students have taken them, we've received really good feedback. And our team has been made up of our administrators, myself, and then our subject matter experts who are our wonderful teachers. We have had instructional design training. As Janet was saying, it's not just designing and building our curriculum, but how do we put that online? How do we allow students to interact with that and make it engaging while also ensuring ADA compliance? And then we have worked with Oxford High School. Dr. Milligan spoke about the offerings where students can go seated or virtual, and we have students who do go back and forth. And we want to ensure that our curriculum is aligned with the high school in terms of standards and summative assessments. So that's how we got here.
And then for K-8 STEM and K-5 Spanish, Oxford Virtual Academy by nature is a very grassroots organization. When you are a school of choice, especially a school of choice that services other schools, whether that be private or public, essentially, people have to choose to come here. We're actively each year trying to convince people that we are providing a high-quality educational product. And so part of the reason why we have experienced, robust growth year after year, while other virtual schools have closed their doors as we get further away from COVID, is because, we actively listen to, number one, our parents' community feedback, and the schools that we service, their feedback on our curriculum and the education that we are providing. And so we have gotten a little bit of feedback on our K-5 Spanish. It has been mixed reviews, and so what we are hoping to do is go in a different direction with our K-5 Spanish, something that is going to be a little more applicable, a little more engaging, and hopefully provide, a higher quality product and a higher quality experience for both our students enrolled directly at OVA and for our parochial schools who are using that product to educate the kids in their classrooms. And then additionally, hearing from our school partners, they are looking for more opportunities to pursue STEM and STEM experiences for their students. Additionally, I hear from parents that while we have, a lot of coding and computer science classes, we're looking for more opportunities for our students to engage in that hands-on science learning. We are not in the business of sticking a 7-year-old in front of a computer for 6 hours a day. So what you'll find out is OVA is very much in the business of distance learning. You might be at a virtual academy, but we want to make sure that you have tactile items in front of you. You are actively engaging, and you have books and literature and hands-on opportunities that are off the computer. Screen time is something that our parents are very actively aware of, and it's something that we try to balance even as a virtual school.
So a little bit more about ELA 9 and World History. For ELA 9, we have 3 anchor texts that are spread throughout the year. So it is a full year course. It is split up into ELA 9A first semester and 9B second semester. So throughout the year, our students would read Tuesdays with Morrie, Romeo and Juliet, and To Kill a Mockingbird. All of these anchor texts are already used at the high school. We will also be using supplementary texts throughout the courses, so smaller readings that will include articles, nonfiction short stories, fiction short stories for students to continue to enhance their reading and writing skills. And then our formative and our summative assessments will cover all of the reading, writing, and speaking standards for our students. They will also include interactive elements. So for example, we have a lesson where students learn about the characters within Romeo and Shakespeare, and they learn about 4 different types of characters that authors use within their stories. They learn that lesson, and then at the end, they drag and drop the characters from Shakespeare into the correct buckets. Teachers can gather that data, so if a student says, I'm really struggling with this, they can see how many times the student has attempted that assessment, how long they spent on that assessment, and what their scores were. So it really allows us to individualize that experience for our students. And then for world history, we are using an online textbook, which is the CK12 Flexbook. Our teachers have pulled that into the course, so students have it right there. And then for their formative assessments and their summatives, they have playlists of options. So they do have objective tests to hone in those test-taking skills, but then they can choose every other unit, options from 11 choices. The rubrics are there, and they get to choose how they show what they know. And they do have to choose different options, so they can't choose the same options throughout the year every time. But it does give them that agency to choose how they show us what they've learned.
So I'll start with explorations in STEM. So this is going to be a class, if you look at the next generation science standards, there are engineering standards that are embedded there. There is a K2 band of engineering standards, a 3-5 band of engineering standards, and then a middle school band. And essentially, this course is going to be centered around those engineering standards and giving students the opportunity to actively engage in them and apply them. So it's going to be an inquiry-based, experiment-heavy course. The curriculum that we're looking at has 60 different hands-on science experiments that students are going to be able to choose. They're going to be tiered for that K2 band, the 3-5 band, and the 6-8 band. So a student, this will be a one-semester class, but a student will be able to take it once in lower elementary, once in upper elementary, and then once in middle school. And these experiments are going to be, things that you may be familiar with, like an egg drop. It's going to be, building a bridge with toothpicks or making a boat with aluminum foil. And as the kids get older, they're going to actively be given, more challenging tasks to complete. The constraints are going to go up. The class is really centered around giving a child, a student, here is the scenario. Here is what you need to be here's what you need to accomplish, and then here are the constraints that you're working with. You only have 14 toothpicks, 3 gumdrops, and 4 quarters. And what can you do with this? And so it's gonna be a research, design process, theory crafting, implementation of that design, observation of how that initial design goes, then a reflection, revision to that initial design, what improvements can you make based on what you saw in that experiment, and then another iteration and a re-implementation of that design. And then it's going to follow up with a reflection process. What thought did you put into this project? How did it go? What did you learn? And you're going to see things like, again, the toothpick bridges, spaghetti towers. It's going to have egg drops, boats. It will have work with geometry standards as well. And it's going to be, a very cost-effective, household item-based class. If you were to go down M24, you're going to see, every other business you see is going to be an elective, essentially business that partners with us. And we offer a robust amount of elective opportunities out in the community. What we are lacking currently is elective opportunities that students can do at home. So we got that feedback from the students who are directly enrolled in OVA, and we also got that feedback from the partner schools that we service. We want more STEM, we want more hands-on. How can we get this? And so our shared time team worked throughout the summer to research different curricular options, and essentially, as I mentioned previously, we are responding to that community desire, we are responding to that community need, and we are hoping that it will be successful, and we will again continue to have a responsive educational process. And then with explorations in Spanish with Sarah Spanish, our current Spanish provider for K-5, Calico, it's a curriculum that, after using it for multiple years, the feedback was, it's very, rote memory based. It's a lot of conjugating and memorizing, and we're looking for something a little more immersive. And so with Sarah's Spanish that we evaluated over the summer, it's going to give students a little more opportunity to engage with Spanish cultures, a little more opportunity to engage with, hands-on learning. Our current Calico offering is very much designed for a seated classroom that we had to heavily adjust to fit in a virtual or a blended environment. Sarah Spanish is going to give us that blended approach off the bat. Printables, also online videos, manipulatives that they can use online, but then also, again, for the parochial schools that we service, where we have a physical teacher there with the kids, it's gonna allow them to implement it a little more smoothly and in that seated environment, while also Calico has not been a very popular offering for our fully online students, and we're hoping that this will allow us to offer that a little bit more, and maybe more parents will choose it.
What questions might you have that we can answer?
I guess I'll go first. Ms. Martin, as far as you were talking about the world history and the flex book and the students being able to choose out of like 11 options, like, I guess maybe you can send this to an email, or what are examples of, like, I don't know what that means really. What is that?
Yes, so for those would be summative assessments. So every other unit, the students would show their knowledge for the entire unit. So think of it kind of as like a unit test or something like that. That's, maybe it's worth 50 or 100 points. That playlist of options will all assess students on the same standards. So if they just learned about ancient Greece, they can create a timeline, an interactive timeline of what they've learned and write up what they've learned throughout the unit about ancient Greece. They could create a playlist of songs that would go with that time period and explain how those songs are representative of what they have learned. So there's 11 of those options for them to choose. They can create a piece of art and write about it, those sorts of things. Did that answer your question?
I think it does, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted
I can send them to you if you'd like. We have them
I think that
in the rubrics.
that's,
Okay.
that's sufficient. Ms. Janice,
Yes.
is the STEM program the same one, the hybrid Dragonfly?
No, so they are using a different one.
Okay.
So our hybrid offerings, those are going to be tailored site to site. We have, even though we have a STEM course already, it's the STEM projects that a student is going to engage with is going to be very different depending on which hybrid site they go, because it's going to depend on the number one, what do the parents want at that location, and then what is the skill set of the instructor there. So this one will be different from the one that maybe you're used to at Dragonfly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions, Colleen? Yeah, that's great. All right. So I know they're looking for a motion because school starts next week. Would someone like to make the motion? Colleen?
Move to approve the 2024-2025 course catalog and course updates as presented.
Do I have support? Ann? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next step is to take those courses, put them in the system, and generate a course number, and then we will generate the final version to send to our auditors and post to the public. So thank you.
Great.
I think
And I think you're
it's
also
still
up
Yeah.
next.
It feels like they need a show today, sorry. It's probably a good sign, like really in the teaching and learning. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I have one more. Is it right after this or? This one? No, that's the next one. It's okay, I can speak to it. So I was going to provide a brief update on the Sex Education Advisory Board. As you know, last October, there was a process initiated to solicit applicants to participate in the advisory board. And it was paused, and so we've come back to it. You may or may not have already seen the applications were sent out to all of our families on August 1st, and we have 46 applicants so far. That's a pretty impressive number to be involved in sex education. We did, additionally, I believe it was either Friday, yeah, probably was Friday, we took who applied the first time last October but may not have applied the second time, and we sent them an email and said, we just wanted to make sure that you received the application. You applied last time but not this time. It's okay if you don't want to anymore, but we just want to make sure. And some of the people were very kind and emailed back and said, my life's kind of changed a little bit, or now I have a senior, and it's probably better for someone to sit it out because it's a 2-year commitment. And so I wanted to make sure that you knew that we did that. We revisited it with our original applicants. Thank you. And then additionally, the application, if it hasn't already today, will go out to all of our students, high school level students, with PowerSchool rollover and ensuring all the kids' contacts and emails were correct. They will get the application, although that hasn't stopped some of our students. Some students have applied, like their families may have encouraged them to, but they'll be getting it again. So that's the application. It's due this Friday. For our students, it will be due on Monday. Then on August 29, the board policy committee will come together and help select the members of the advisory board. The state is very particular about who should be on the advisory board. So first, they approve a supervisor. MDE approves a supervisor for the board. Parents, guardians, students, educators, local clergy, and community health professionals are all part of the board. I've received a couple of emails from our community just wondering, like, hey, why is clergy a part of this? Like, what's their place in it? Can you help me understand? And it's part of the law that it's required that clergy are on it, but it's also to help ensure multiple perspectives and multiple thoughts and schools essentially are included as we roll out curriculum. And then at least 50% of the Sex Education Advisory Board must be parents or guardians of students in the district and not employed by the district. So selecting this committee or putting more members on, as some members have moved on, is going to be a little tricky because those are the things that we're going to have to make sure. Like, okay, are you a parent and an employee? Like, put you in this column. And so some people may not be selected just because we're going to be trying to meet this quota. And then, as required by the state, we have 2 meetings scheduled, one for October, I believe it's October 16, and I'm not remembering the March date, but tentatively planned for March. And then depending on what the advisory board is interested in working on or reviewing, they may ask or need more meetings. So that is where we are right now with that. So hopefully by August 29, we'll have established an updated board.
Do you know how many members you typically, like what's best practice for the number of members of the board?
It's could be close to 20 people.
Okay.
And that's probably really good practice because unfortunately, a lot of people don't always come to the meeting, so it helps to ensure that voice is always at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you plan to get the options for the local clergy and the community health professionals?
Some of those people are our families already.
Okay.
So we do have family members in our parents of students who are clergy members. We also have medical professionals who are parents, and some we've actually reached out to them and said, I believe like at Lake Point as an example, they are not affiliated with the school with a student, but we've said, hey, this is an option. Is this something that you're interested in? We can send you the application. And I think we've done that with a couple of other local religious establishments.
Okay. All right.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Supervisor approved by MDE of the people that are picked?
Of a staff member. This has to be a
okay.
staff member.
Sorry,
Thank you for asking that, because that staff member also has to have the right certification and background to be appointed by the state, yeah, or approved by the state. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
All right. Next item on the agenda is finance and operations. We have the OVA shared time technology. And I guess an introduction, Mr. Fitzgerald, we've heard about you. Welcome to your first board meeting. Thank you for joining us this evening and writing up this scope of work for us. I'm Look
Thank
forward
you
to
very-
hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Opportunity to be with you tonight. And good evening. We do have on the agenda a procurement, a request on the agenda, a procurement request for technology devices that's associated with the district shared time services programming. Specifically, the 50 laptops at $22,299.50, 425 Chromebooks at $116,732.80 for a grand total of $139,032.30. The funding source associated with the acquisition is going to be the general fund. And because it's a shared time program, just from a little background on how that program works, it's a program that's been around and operated by public schools and produced and created by the state since, what I'm told, since the 1950s. It's changed over the years and many districts participate in it. And it is a self-funding program. Oxford's been involved with it for quite some time as well. So it's a self-funding program the way it's set up. So what that really means when I say self-funding, when it comes to the different elements of the services provided under the shared time service agreement and program, in many cases, there's technology provided, and this is a good example of just that because it's associated with our OVO programming, which involves this direct virtual use. So in terms of the cost of this technology, it's paid for by the program itself, and it's designed, the state's designed it so that when all said and done, there's some modest excess revenue provided by the program. It's kind of an incentive for public schools to be involved in the program. And the basic core of a shared time programming is it's a public school partnering up with a non-public school to provide non-core classwork or courses. And the way that works is we'll go in and we'll make a partnership agreement with one of these schools. We'll provide these programs. Our staff will provide programs. And we'll be able to count those kids that are taking those non-core classes in our state aid, which generates the revenue, which in turn funds the program. So my long story short there was to just kind of paint the picture of it's being identified as a general fund funding source because the program's housed in the general fund, but it's a self-funding element of the general fund. So from that perspective, it would be the administration's recommendation to the Board of Education to approve the purchase of the tech devices as presented, and I would be more than happy to address any questions.
Do you have questions? Okay. All right, yeah, you can see the background is done nicely that it's actually required if we have these contracts to provide devices to these students, so. All right, any other questions from the board? All right, can I get a motion? Colleen?
Move to approve the OVA shared time device purchase for fiscal year '25 as presented.
Do I have support? Mike? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is safety and school operations. Dr. Williman.
Good evening. So typically, we have an update, but we are going to do reminders this evening, and I think it's a better way to welcome our school year, is to be able to give nice reminders for everyone. So our first reminder is set through transportation. Our route notifications, we will be notified by August 19th. If you've ever had to plan any sort of routes for buses, it's It's a lot. And so even with the technology and all the new things that we have, it's a lot to do. So I appreciate Mike Strong, he's our Director of Transportation, being able to get that ready for our kids. And so when I called him and said, hey, what are some good transportation reminders we want to give to everyone as we start our school year? These were his big ones that he shared, was wait until the bus comes to a complete stop before approaching. If the student is crossing the street, make sure you look both ways, but also wait for the driver's signal that you can cross the street. Remain seated while the bus is in motion. And parents, please remain outside of the bus. Students will enter and exit on their own. And then this came out from Oxford Village, and I wanted to share this. This picture is used with permission from Chief Sold. Is Oxford Lake Subdivision, the Lake's Edge Drive. This is not a school drop-off location. Please use the proper school drop-off locations. Oxford Village Police have placed no parking signs, and failure to comply shall result in a citation for disobeying a traffic control device, which is a 2-point ticket and a $140 fine. And with that, some OHS driving reminders. So please do not turn left into the Willow Lake subdivision, State Street, from 2:15 to 3:45 p.m., and that is the Google Maps picture of the actual sign. That is effective school days only. Also, please do not park in fire lanes, and be aware of those around you as you're driving. And those of us who have got to deal with the fun of teenage drivers know exactly what I'm talking about. So, a camera update. We did switch software companies. Our cameras remain exactly the same, but we did bring a presentation to you earlier about changing our cameras over to Axis. We actually had training today. A lot of people that are sitting in the audience got to see some of the great features. So, first and foremost, it was cost savings for us. Part of it was some of the general features that are within Axis, we would have had to add on. And so being able to have some of these analytics are very robust, being able to add and restrict Active Directory user accounts to be able to see who can view, who can search, and really tightening our exporting guidelines and just in general strengthening our features that we have in auditing within the camera system. And so we also are going to be welcoming kids at our Oxford Education and Innovation Campus. It's been great to see the progress. I know moves are hard, but it is very exciting. So we will have multiple programs there, but I'm most excited for the student programs. Bridges, Loft, and OVA will be there, as well as school safety, operational technology, student services, and special education. And as an education person by trade, like being able to be in a building with kids is very exciting to me. We will have Zero Eyes. Fortis personnel will be present. We'll have AEDs, Stop the Bleed kit, and there will be a 1 point of entry for all staff and students with administrator and security supervision. I did bring to you the Raptor School Safety Suite, and we received a grant for the student safe part of it, but there are other components with it. So I wanted to share this graphic so everyone can see how we're really trying to streamline. When I first got here in November of 2022, that January to June was really trying to get a lay of the land and figure it out. Last year was laying that foundation piece across the district because school safety is a lot. It's a multi-hazard approach when you look at all 5 phases of emergency management and things like that. So this year is really focusing on how can we enhance, how can we streamline. And so one of those ways is really cutting down on the places people have to go to do things. And so really looking at these big 4 buckets that are here, our threat assessment and suicide risk assessment. We were using Navigate 360 for our full threat assessment and suicide risk assessment with paper-based screeners, because Navigate 360 did not allow us to personalize our screeners to where they were. So we were still paper-based screeners, and we didn't have a consistent practice across the district, a consistent system for how people could report concerning or threatening behavior. Our visitor management was School Gate Guardian. Our bullying investigation portal was a Oxford Community Schools developed website. And then our safety protocols, our standard response protocol, standard reunification method, the incoming Alyssa's Law that we know is eventually going to be here, so our silent classroom alarms, and just in general, how do we get assistance on safety concerns? All of that can now be wrapped into Raptor School Safety Suite. And so our big focuses as we start this year is really on the threat assessment, suicide risk assessment, and bullying investigation portal. That's our Student Safe. Really getting a good firm grasp on that. We've already had an overview training. I will be meeting with the secondary mental health professionals on the 20th. And then we're working on a September date to follow up with anybody else, where we already have our Raptor trainers, as well as Dr. Amy Grosso, who is a counselor by trade, and then works with Safe and Sound Schools as well as Raptor. And then the other piece that we're really focusing on is our visitor management. We gave a training, Trevor Marshall, who's our district technology and security technician. He gave a really great training at our admin support welcome back. And then we worked with the high school to look at what check-in is going to look like during the day, and I know Kurt's gonna talk about that a little bit more. So those are our big, like, this is what we're starting with. And then because we have the standard response protocol, the standard reunification method in place, that'll be what follows it, because it is there and ready to go. Each staff member, and I don't know if I'll quickly be able to get out my little card. Oh, I did, nice. Each staff member is gonna receive a card that has the standard response protocol on it. I call it the little cheat sheet for the standard response protocol. And that way they're not, what's going on is, where is my yellow flip chart right now in this moment? It's right here on me. And so really then being able to, now that we laid that foundation last year with the standard response protocol and the standard reunification method, what are our next steps? And so that's kind of I know there's 4 buckets, but it's our 3-tiered approach to move forward with our transition to Raptor and why we did. And so now I'll transfer over to Mr. Noose and Ms. Bittner.
Yes, I'll be brief. I was going to go home and put on a sport coat, but we invited 384 of our freshmen today for our Link Day. And so on the first day of school, there will be 50 or 60 of these bright orange shirts. We had 42 or 44 mentors. Andrew Shakatano and his staff did a great job inviting kids, a lot of energy in our building. It was good to see kids enjoying their time there and just figuring it out, figuring, their first steps. So part of that, Dr. Milligan talked about some of the things that are kind of positive for mental health, that consistent routine. Some of you have been lucky, we were fortunate to have you come and watch our door routine every morning. So kids will come through the door. A part of that routine, we have music going. It's kind of a celebration, welcoming them to being there. They know unless something happened, the same people are going to greet them every day. I'm going to be at door 2 with Mark Suckley right behind me. Jim Rook will be there and the security staff. Door 1 will be Christy Gibson Marshall and Mitch Brooks. Kevin Nelms and Lisa Butts will take door 17. There's music, there's dancing. Some dance more than others. All of them dance more than me. But that's probably better that way. And our counselors and our mental health counselors and FSLs are there to help too. So when they come in the door, there will be dogs, music, and it's just a welcoming atmosphere every day. Continuing that on, we have our student relation teams. 2 years ago, we started in the fall of 22, our student relation teams. We used to have, I used to be responsible for juniors and seniors, and Christy was freshmen and sophomores. We divided it up with the addition of some counselors, our FSLs, and an additional assistant principal, so now we go alphabetically. And really what our SRT teams do, I will put together kind of as a 3-step process. We gather data, we get as much information on our kiddos. Some of that comes in from staff members, some of it comes in from surveys, PBIS lessons, SABRs, anything, test scores, grades, and we'll gather the information we have, just anecdotal things of we notice kids coming in at the door, they just didn't look right, teacher reports, so we identify those from that data. We identify those who are in, who may have need some support, and we get them the supports. We have check-ins with them, and we also make sure students are informed of where they can go. So our FSLs will have weekly or daily check-ins with certain kids. We'll have monthly check-ins, and as we meet them, part of it is Mrs. Bridget will talk about kind of that trusted adult, which we continually try to identify and expand those list of trusted adults that we can connect with, all about building relationships with kiddos. The list of the mental health professionals we have, you kind of see there. We have the 6 counselors, 3 FSLs, social workers. We have our Allison Gilreath, our school psych, and then the addition of Aaron, our recovery coordinator. We also have Easter Seals on site. We have Better Life counseling available. We have safe spaces, so we make sure we let our kids know, hey, if you're just having trouble today, even if it's just 5 minutes to breathe, where you can go, who you can talk to, even if it's just, hey, you're sitting in my office, you just wave to me, I won't bother you. 5 minutes, then we'll try to get you some help if you need more than that deep breath. So our kids just know we're there for them. And that's what our goal is every single day.
Okay, so I didn't get to introduce us at first. I was really hoping I'd get to introduce Mr. Noose because he was my history teacher and I have to call him Mr. Noose. I can't call him Kurt. So I'm here on behalf of Todd, thank you, Barless, I'm going to present his slides this evening because he's on vacation. So first we're going to talk about some continuation of mental health practices we have. We have our restorative practice champions. We have a handful of those. There's 1 in every building, 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, and their job is really to champion the work as well as help train our staff. At the high school, we have 85% of our OHS staff trained in restorative practices, which breaks down to 97 staff that have been trained and 17 who still need that training. We also use Prepare, which is through NASP, which is the National Association of School Psychologists. It's a national model for crisis response. The OHS crisis response team, or really I guess I should say all of our building teams are trained in this Prepare model. We have a handful of trainers here. I'm one of them, Allison's one of them, Todd and Mark Suckley. We're working on training all of the staff, but all the staff that are on these teams have gone through this training, and really their role is to respond during activating events. And then next we have our Wildcat Pack, our therapy dogs. Those 4 dogs that Todd put on there, I believe, are just designated to the high school, though. They'll be back in full force with their same schedules, and which allows kids to have access to their favorite 4-legged friends during the day. Our resources and programs, we have our Youth Action Board. They do a lot of really cool things, but something personally that stood out to me that they're doing is they have a Spotify playlist that has about 3.5 hours of like calming, relaxing music. And it's just OHS students, and you can be added to this playlist. And it's just like a very unique and interesting way to get kids connected. So I thought that was pretty cool. We have QPR, or Question, Persuade, and Refer. This is a peer suicide awareness and prevention education. I believe this was brought to you a few months ago, but this is being pushed through our 9-10 health class at the high school. We have Trails to Wellness, which is our SEL curriculum at the high school. This is being done through their advisory lessons. We have CBITS, or Cognitive Behavior Intervention for Trauma in Schools. We have a handful of our own mental health professionals that have gone through this training, so now we have our own clinicians that are running groups for Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. And then we have Breathe for Change, which is a research-backed educational resource dedicated to uplifting and supporting stronger school communities. Resources we have to monitor students. We have our Gaggle and Go Guardian team, which monitors students using district devices and networks. This is a 15-person on-call team. I will say I'm one of the members. Allison also helps out a lot with this. This is a 24/7, 365 team. It's made up of all district mental health staff, from elementary all the way to secondary. We take this job very seriously. I can be completely honest and say I've like sat on my bathroom floor at 2 in the morning with my laptop and my phone working on things with Allison, with Todd, lots of different people. So we do take this job very seriously, and there's awesome people on this team I'm very grateful to my other team members to help make this run and go. We have our SABRS, which is our Social, Academic, and Emotional Behavior Risk Screener. This is completed in the fall, the winter, and the spring. There's a self-screener that the students complete about themselves, and then there's a teacher screener which the teacher completes about the student 3 times a year. We have our student trusted adult information. That's a survey that students fill out about their trusted adult at school. And then we have our ongoing implementation for our Care for Student plans, or C4S, which is formal documentation that reflects our Tier 2 and Tier 3 skills that we're working on with students. Our mental health partners that we're so very lucky to have, Mr. Noose talked about them a little, but we have co-located Easter Seals and Better Life Counseling therapists that will provide clinical services. And then our ongoing community partnerships that provide psychoeducation. We have North Oakland Community Coalition, or NOCC. They do a lot in the community. They've also come into the high school and done some events during lunchtime. We have our awesome Resiliency Center that we all know and love, and they do a lot of groups and classes for staff, students, families, and then Oxford Addison Youth Assistance. Our designated person from the county is at the middle school. She's awesome. They do a lot of classes as well as just provide a variety of resources to the community. And she's great. And then finally, we have our new recovery coordinator that we've welcomed, Erin McLeod. She started at the end of May, and her role really is to provide support to the Oxford Schools community in their crisis response, work closely with mental health team to support the recovery of Oxford students, work with our community partners, support parents, families, and staff in their recovery, serve as a school representative for crisis-related events, and participate in building and district-level activities, staff meetings, PDs, and really any educational planning meetings as required for the recovery effort. Like I said, she started at the end of May, so we did our very best to get her up to speed, meet as many people as she possibly could, meet our team, so hopefully when we start here next week, she can hit the ground running with us. So. That's all I have for you tonight. I'm happy to take any questions you may have. If I don't know the answer, I can ask Todd and have him respond to you guys, or one of my other team members might know the answer. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Sure.
Bridget, how many like gaggle alerts does your team get in a month?
Of all, like, so there's different levels. So there's like something called a questionable content, which like we respond to, as soon as we can. Or there's also something called a PSS, which needs to be responded to within 5 minutes. So any gaggle? Yeah.
It varies. It varies, honestly. I don't want to curse us because school is not in session yet, but in the last 2 weeks, we've gotten 1. But in June, we were probably getting 5 a week. But it could vary from a student in crisis to inappropriate things you're looking up online, which kind of gets into that questionable content, or it's a Google Doc, but it ends up being a class assignment. So the late night ones, and I'm gonna knock on wood here because I'm cursing myself, have not been as much. But the team is always very quick because we are the ones who get the 2 o'clock in the morning calls. And so luckily, in the last 2 weeks, there's been 1, and it was a daytime what was being searched online, but still something that needed to be addressed at that campus. So there is no really good answer to say what is the average, because it really depends on what's going on with the kids and what they're doing in class.
Is that it? Ian?
No, that was great. Thank you for all you do.
So
The other
before
thing
that-
I noticed,
yep.
yes. I don't know.
So
if
the
you
other
guys
thing
up
we
there.
wanted to share,
I
I
like
need to
this.
go, nope, that's not it. Scroll all the way over where, Erin? Minimize.
It's the second
There we go.
attachment, I think. It should be there.
Was we put together like a nice little one-pager of resources. The anonymous bullying report form has been updated with the current board policy. I'm working on the signs and everything. So that's been updated. And then the OCS mental health resources, that takes you directly to our website with all of the resources, and any of these are active links as well. So if QR codes are not your thing, you can click on the title and it'll take you directly there. We have okay to say because we still encourage. It is confidential, it is not anonymous, but it's only confidential, like the Michigan State Police can figure it out. But that is always a welcome avenue for anything to report, because we do get those calls. I call them my friends at this point, because it's the same two officers, and so they respond very quickly. We have excellent, as I've said, presenting to you, our SROs are excellent, our substation is incredible, so they're used to me. We have our unwritten rule of, if I'm calling you after 9 o'clock, it's not to chat, so they are used to that and answer. Schoolsafety.gov, which has a plethora of resources and guides if anyone's interested in more reading. The safe gun storage law that takes you to the University of Michigan School Safety Initiative page that I really think has some great graphics for those who are gun owners to understand the different ways you can store your gun, trigger locks, safes, and things like that. But it also has a nice explanation of the law and the penalties that come with it. And then, of course, everyone loves the dogs. I always say that is one of my favorite parts of my job, is seeing the dogs, and so a link right to all of our dogs that we have in the services that they provide for us. So this will be a resource just for everyone. There are plenty of other resources that we could share with you. These were just kind of the good 6 to start the school year as a way to bring everyone back, because I know schoolsafety.gov just released a great back to school checklist and guide, which we've looked at and gone over to prepare for the year, and so just, you're more than welcome to check out any of those sources.
Yep, so those who are looking for that, it's in board book under the Safety and School Operations tab. Thank you. I do not have any questions. Thank you for coming and
Thank you.
Presenting. All right, item number 10, unscheduled public comment. Kelly's bring them over. So far. My thing died. Right. All right, we only have one, and I'm not going to mess with that because I don't know what happened to it. I am not a good James Summers, apparently. All right, Steve St. Juliana.
Good evening. Just wanted to make a couple of comments, suggestions. I was actually asked to come speak to you tonight about one of these things. And it fits actually in very well with Dr. Milligan's presentation. I heard a lot about transparency and communication, and this is along with that. And it goes along the lines of transparency in terms of what the board is thinking and communicating that to the community. I know there's been a lot of improvements, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult for the community to know what you're thinking if there's no discussion, there's no comments, etc. A lot of times, the why is just as important as the what. And tonight, maybe not a great example. There's a lot of things that were fairly straightforward. Not a lot of discussion may be required. Maybe some that could have used some more. But it all comes back to that. And the one example, specific example, I was asked to highlight was, so in the July 23rd board meeting, there was an item discussed about a resolution that the board had discussed in closed session. You decided not to bring it forward at that time, but there was comments made about, well, there was inaccuracies, etc. What's the inaccuracies? What's the resolution? I mean, not voting on it is great, but not discussing it and bringing it to the community and know, what are you talking about? in more than just general terms. Obviously, this specific one is very dear to my heart, but it's a very good example, I think, of the point I'm trying to bring, is that obviously what's going on in closed session, nobody knows what's going on as a result of that. But even beyond that, having the discussion between the board members and explaining your thoughts is a very critical part of the communication and rebuilding the trust with the community. That's basically it. And I hope that on the next board meeting, that resolution will be brought forward and discussed.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Item number 11 on the agenda are scheduled activities. First day of school on August 22nd. I wish everyone a great academic year, both students, teachers, parents, and all the other staff that help support these kids have a wonderful time. And thank you, Mr. News, for Link Day. I have a freshman this year, and he was actually had a pep in his step when he walked out, so that was nice. 14-year-old boys don't always love school. Any administrative clarifications, Dr. Milligan? All right. Any final board comments from the four of us? I know we have 3 absent tonight. We will be back in full force at the next meeting. So, all right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for coming tonight.